In this video, we'll discover what is literally the most broken ability ever introduced in World of Warcraft. Hello, and welcome to Archvelder's Hacks with Archvelder and his amazing hacks. In patch 9.1, Blizzard Entertainment released Shadow Rift, the new Warlock PvP talent. This is literally the worst, most broken ability I have ever encountered in 15 years of play. There is so much you can do with this, from simply teleporting players over the edge of cliffs, to literally forcing multiple players into endless disconnection loops. It is very silly. But first, a quick word from my sponsor, me, or rather my patron, where stupidly overpowered hacks too strong for YouTube are published as soon as I discover them. Right now we have a ridiculously powerful method to farm Stygia super fast, plus an amazing treasure trove of active exploits. Now the way Shadow Rift works is like this. The Warlock places their demonic circle in the normal fashion. For those who don't know, placing a demonic circle allows the Warlock to teleport back to this point instantly from as much as 40 yards away. Now, Shadow Rift allows you to teleport enemy players to your demonic circle. It is really difficult to know what Blizzard were thinking here. Perhaps Blizzard envisaged that Warlocks would simply use Shadow Rift as a means of placing distance between themselves and melee attackers or something. But what Warlocks actually started doing is teleporting people over cliffs in Korthia and forcing them into endless disconnection loops. I'm demonstrating a similar strategy here. To be fair, this does require some skill, and you have to make sure the enemy player has forward momentum and is inside the Shadow Rift when it expires, which takes a couple of seconds. So even though this is game-breaking in the hands of an expert, its impact is probably manageable. However, that is by no means all you can do with this talent. There's a number of things that you can do to make the play more dangerous. For example, points exist in Warcraft Battlegrounds that are points of no return. Points of no return are locations where the player can step but will immediately fall down, and this makes it much easier to port players into a sheer drop, as the enemy player doesn't have to have any forward momentum for this to work. You can use the engineering item Shadow Landmine to give the enemy player a helping hand, as I'm demonstrating here. But now let's talk about an ancient and dark art of PvP exploitation that's almost been lost in the mists of time, only surfacing in mysterious rumours on PvP and bug report forums, and practiced only by the most degenerate PvPers, like myself. It is known as entrapment, and 5 years ago I made the only comprehensive guide to the subject in my first PvP exploit guide. Entrapment involves using abilities like the Death Knight's Death Grip to trap enemy players inside poorly designed terrain they could not escape. Now, entrapment is back with a vengeance for two reasons. First, Shadow Rift makes it far easier to access than with any previous class ability. Second, it used to be the case that an entrapped player could escape by simply using help and then unstuck, which would teleport them to the nearest graveyard within the battleground. So it only really worked against unsophisticated players. Nowadays, Blizzard have automated the unstuck function, and it will remove you from the battleground altogether if you use it. So the trapped player has to leave the battleground or remain trapped throughout the entire duration of the contest. So it is a much more serious loss to the enemy player's team than a simple kill would be. There are many locations you can practice entrapment, too many to cover in this video, but I'm going to show you some of the main ones. There's one here in the Dwarven Keep of Twin Peaks, behind these barrels. Note the placement of the demonic gate here. You have to get it exactly right as I show in this video. Then, once you've used the gate, move over to the right corner and place your demonic circle. Alternatively, you can use the conduit Kilrog's Cunning, which will allow you to place your demonic circle in the right location using your Eye of Kilrog. One of the most devastating uses of entrapment is here in the Alliance Fortress in Isle of Conquest. If you place a demonic gateway behind the statue here, you can put down a demonic circle that is impossible to escape from without using special abilities. The only way out for the warlock is to use the gateway itself again after its cooldown has expired. You can then port any number of players behind the statue. You can use a similar tactic in Dun Baldar in Alterac Valley. First, you need to know how to get to an outer bounds area next to Dun Baldar Fortress. Then use a demonic gateway to get on top of the fortress. Now move around to the right. Getting through this gap is a little tricky. You have to face the wall and wiggle a bit to the right to get through. Now jump down. This area cannot be easily escaped from by the Horde if you teleport them here, as there is dead space all around the zone which will disconnect you if you fall into it. The only way out is a tricky jump across to these druids, who are all elites. Now this is fine for the warlock, trying to get back to the main battle area, but these elites will batter any Horde player to death relatively quickly, and they have no leash. They'll follow them anywhere. Essentially, any players you teleport here are out of the game permanently. Once the demonic circle has been placed, then defending the Alliance boss is easy. First, I use the toy shard of Archstone, which stops you being targeted and prevents the Horde stunning you before you can cast Shadow Rift. Then just cast Shadow Rift on as many players as you can capture, and they will all be taken out of play, as you can see here. Here in the Eye of the Storm, this bookcase offers another entrapment opportunity. You'll need the conduit Kilrog's Cunning. Cast the eye so it appears directly inside the bookcase. You'll notice correct placement is quite tricky here, and if you get it in exactly the right position, you'll be able to trap players inside the bookcase, as I'm demonstrating here with this Demon Hunter. There's another location here in Deepwind Gorge Market. Inside this building, these barrels can, with some expert timing, be jumped behind, and it is really difficult to get out even with special abilities. That's actually a bit of a problem for the warlocks, since they either have to rely on some naive Horde player entering the building, zapping them inside the entrapment area, and then letting the Horde player kill them and res at the graveyard, or alternatively putting the demonic circle on top of the barrels and using an enemy player's forward momentum to trap them inside, which works but is tricky to pull off. That said, if you can trap the enemy player inside, this is one of the hardest locations to escape from. Here's a really powerful trick you can use in Twin Peaks. This area to the left of the Horde base can be glitched through using the jump ability from the wrestling toy. Once inside, you can put down a demonic circle. It is then easy to one-shot flag carriers like this, since flag carriers tend to be moving fast and will just plummet to their deaths outside of the instance when you port them using Rift. There's a strange opportunity here in Silvershard Mines to exploit the lava pool near one of the cart capture points. You can put down a demonic circle in the lava. To do this, first place a demonic gate at the point where you want to put down the circle in order to minimize flame damage to yourself. You can then port any players in the area into the lava, which does a significant amount of fire damage. But what about World PvP? You can actually do a lot with World PvP. You can literally port people into the sky and get them to suffer huge fall damage. This requires a combination of methods. First, you'll need to dig out your Heart of Azeroth necklace, and second, you'll need to acquire the Ripple in Space essence if you don't have it already. This is offered for killing 25 players in Nazjatar. Now, you probably won't be able to find 25 players in Nazjatar now, so either just kill a friend repeatedly, or use the login trick to kill one of your own opposite faction characters. You just log in on one character of the opposite faction, place them near your warlock in Nazjatar, close the client with Alt plus F4, and then your warlock character should kill them, and then repeat the whole process 25 times. You'll also need the item Fey Harp, which you can obtain in Ardenweald. You'll need a friend or an alt to help you play the two instruments simultaneously. That's all you need to get the Fey Harp toy. Activate Ripple in space whilst flying, then when you hit the ground, use Fey Harp. You will then be stationary mid-air, effectively on an invisible platform, and can cast spells. Cast Demonic Circle and you now have a port location in the air. Enemy players can be ported to this location using Shadow Rift. It's a lot of fun. You can do a maximum of about 95% of the ported player's health in full damage this way. You can't actually kill them outright with full damage, as there seems to be a restriction on the height above the ground that you can place a demonic circle. That said, if you want to do one-shot combos, it is pretty easy to finish a player off once they hit the ground. You could, for example, port yourself to the demonic circle location and then use momentum redistributor boots, or use a strategically placed landmine, or just finish them in the normal fashion. I'm sure you can think of other variations.
To the first blog.
Now, to avoid this video being 30 trillion hours long, this is really just scratching the surface. In particular, I've not included all the stuff you can do with a partner, especially using classes like Demon Hunters to port people to their death in death zones below the ground, and all kinds of shenanigans which borders on mass griefing. But it's worth pointing out here that there is a lot more to discover for the motivated. Now, you will get banned if you overdo this, if you trigger enough reports. Mostly I get the impression that players only really have a vague idea what happened to them when you use these tricks, so provided you don't practice sustained and prolonged griefing, you should be okay. So there's the video. If you liked it, why not subscribe? And if you really liked it, why not join my super secret Patreon feed where hacks too hot for YouTube get published on a regular basis. Thanks for watching. This has been Archer Elder.